I give God all honor that He created us. I mean, I don't know if that's y'all belief system. Um, that's my belief system. I know, or at least I would reason that even according to science, we had to come from a start, and like all of these ideologies and other um, teachings about how we came about, like it got to make sense, you know. Like for example, the Big Bang Theory.
Well, hold on, because I
Boom,
don't
and
want you
then
to
all of
get.
a sudden,
Give me just a second. I don't want you to get into talking about like evolution and creation.
I won't.
When
Yeah,
the
I won't.
store when the question is, what would it take for you to say no to God?
Um, to be honest with you, nothing. I mean, nothing because I know what God has done for me, which is life itself, and giving me an opportunity to know who He is, and also our um, history and the future, and everything is beneficial. Everything is like all good. It's just about like utilizing it, taking advantage of the resources.
Okay, so there's absolutely nothing um that would make you say no to God. Absolutely nothing.
Nah,
Like, and
nah.
I'm not saying that when I say no, it actually says tell God no. Like, there's absolutely nothing that you would say, no, God, I'm not doing that. Nothing.
Right, right. Yeah, no. I mean, um n- my answer is no. I mean, I wouldn't, because again, what my reasoning on it is that anything that he put out there, it's gonna be in some type of benefit for me.
Okay.
So if it's any benefits going on, I'm all in.
Okay. So, have you ever seen people like on the side of the road who aren't necessarily maybe they are uh suffering from like a mental illness, and they may be in a state that is questionable, right? They may not have clothes
Uh-huh.
on, um
Right.
and they come up to you and they say, God told me to tell you such and such, and this is I'm out here because this is what God wanted me to do, right? Have you ever seen that?
I've seen the people, but I mean, I haven't made like an approach like that. I mean, and I have seen people that made approaches like that, but I wouldn't. I
Do you think
wouldn't.
that's God when they say that?
That's a good question. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, when they say that, they're doing the work of God and God told them, to just, walk around naked and preach the gospel. And, they may walk up to you at the gas station and all they have on is a shirt. And you're like, bro, why you out here like that? And it's like, I'm doing the work of God. And then they may tell you that they're an angel from another, you know, that they're a messenger. Like, is that, um, is that something that you would do?
Okay, so if I can understand your question, are you talking about like somebody that's homeless and somebody approached them,
I mean, they could
or
be
are you
homeless.
talking?
God could have told them not to live in a house. God could have told them to wander around for 2 or 3 years like that, to symbolize something. Like, is that something that you would do?
No, 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 absolutely not. Not the God that I worship. I mean, the God I worship, like we gotta come legit, represent Him. He's a clean God, um, and um, we don't. I don't want to give Him any type of what's a good word, reproach. With Him and what He represent. All professional. or at least that's the way. Of course, we imperfect, so ain't like we're gonna just totally get it right, but do it to the best of our ability and our will and strength, and just do things where you looking appropriate. Um, I don't know if that answers the question
I mean, it
in
answers the
particular.
question. Yeah, like I hear, I get you. So basically, I just want to make sure that I understand what you're saying. That your God would not ask you to do that because your God is clean. And your God, you have to represent your God in the best way, and you don't feel like that would be representing your God in the best light. And so when people say God told me that this is what he want me to do to represent that, this is how the world, this is the state of the world, and um the impending destruction of the world that's coming, you don't believe that that would be God's way of doing things. Am I understanding?
Nah, no, ma'am.
So, but if
Nah.
God asked you to do that, though, you said that you would do
Okay.
anyway. Um, in the hypothetical, right?
Okay.
If God asked you to do that, would you tell him no? If he said, "I want you to live on the street for 2 years, wear only a shirt, and I want you to proclaim to the people that this is how I see the earth, and this is the impending judgment," like, would you do that for God?
Okay. I can see. I can kind of see your question. Okay. Um. So, well, no. I still stand on. I wouldn't tell God no. So, if it was a crazy wild scenario where he would have me to do something out of the square, then so be it. But if I could just put a but in there, I know that the Almighty, he wouldn't do nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? Because
You sure about that?
it's yeah, yes. I mean, I'm positive.
So why did he tell Jeremiah to do that for 3 years? I mean, I'm sorry, Isaiah. Why did he tell Isaiah to do that for 3 years?
Um, okay. I mean, that's a good question. Now that I would probably have to um do some researching on that. But
Yeah,
now
we
if
can
I
we
if
can
I
read
if
it.
I
We can read it right now, Isaiah 20. I'll pull it up. Okay. Let's see. We're gonna start at verse 1. In the year that Tartan became, hold on, in the year that Tartan came unto Ashdod, when Sargon the king of Assyria sent him, and fought against Ashdod and took it, at the same time spake the Lord by Isaiah the son of Amos, saying, Go and loose the sackcloth from off thy loins, and put off thy shoe from thy foot. And he did so, walking naked and barefoot. And the Lord said, Like as my servant Isaiah hath walked naked and barefoot 3 years, for a sign and wonder upon Egypt and upon Ethiopia, so shall the king of Assyria lead away the Egyptians prisoners and the Ethiopians captives, young and old, naked and barefoot, even with their buttocks uncovered, to the shame of Egypt. So he asked Isaiah to walk around for 3 years naked to basically be a sign for the impending doom that he had planned for Egypt and Ethiopia. And what he was saying was that the Egyptians and the Ethiopians were going to be taken captive and become slaves of the Assyrians. And they were going to, follow behind them in chains, butt ass naked, with their butts hanging out.
yeah, that's all crazy.
Yeah, if like if God told you to do something like that, would you do it? I mean, Jeremiah just like straight up gangstered it and walked around with no clothes or shoes on for 3 years, butt ass naked, screaming the prophecy.
I mean, I would have to attest to it. I have to go ahead and do it.
You don't think that Jeremiah? I keep calling this man Jeremiah. Y'all. You don't think Isaiah was suffering from a mental illness here?
Um, I wouldn't say so. Because of the context or the information that he provided for the book of Isaiah. Completing at least one book that's completed the scriptures for us. In regards of what's truly going on, like today, from the past, and then also in the future.
What do you mean? What do you mean with like what does Isaiah walking around butt ass naked have to do with any of that? Like you don't think if Isaiah wanted to say that the Assyrians were going to take the Egyptians and the Ethiopians as slaves, he could have just said it. Like, did he have to walk around butt ass naked with no shoes on? Like the fact that Isaiah believed that that's what God wanted him to do for 3 years. That's kind of wild to me. I guess I'm not understanding what you mean by how that is relevant to today.
Well, I mean that information, a lot of information that's in Isaiah. I believe that you do have like a couple of predictions in Isaiah, if I'm correct. I could be
Oh,
wrong, but
you're
I
talking
want to
about
say,
prophecies about Jesus.
yeah,
So,
right, right, right.
you're what does it have to do with God telling Isaiah to walk around butt ass naked for 3 years?
I mean that's a good one right there. Thinking, you know what I'm saying? That's a good one. I mean, I just know that, well, you know, um, because of probably that day and time, those biblical days, like the way things were done back then. Of course, we're not doing like the exact same things that they was doing then, even though that's not justifying,
But there
what
are
you.
people doing the same things, and that's I think that's um the issue, right? There are people who are saying God told them to live on the street, that and not be housed, or that it's God's uh will that they suffer, for the kingdom, because God told them to, or a messenger told them to, or they met Jesus. I mean, there are people who are going through that. Um, Let me ask you. So, have you heard of the Ezekiel bread?
No, I haven't heard of the Ezekiel bread.
So in Ezekiel chapter 4, so I know you said, that there's nothing that, would make you say no to God. First, let me ask you, how would you know that you're hearing God's voice? Because in the beginning, you said that God would not ask anyone to, or ask you to walk around naked for 3 years. You were pretty adamant that that was outside of God's character. And finding that this is within his character, especially when he's pissed, has that changed? And then how has that changed for you? And then how do you know when you are hearing God's voice?
That's a good question. Because now where we at, um, in regards of God, we had a Bible. That's His way of speaking to us. Um, if you hearing anything, if you hearing voices, anything like that's not God. The way we speak to God, of course, is through prayer. We can do it silently, or you can do it out loud.
But you
And it
said that
would
you wouldn't say no to God. So when you pray, like how do you know God is talking back to you? I understand that for you, you're not hearing voices, but there are some people who do. How do you know when God is telling you to do something or telling you not to do something?
Okay. Again, it's through His book.
Mm.
He's telling you how to live a life that will be favorable to His worship. And then, in regards of, like, say he talks back, that's one way he's talking to us. and then in return, or like say like talking back, even though he's not literally talking back, but when you pray for the things that's within his will, it got to be within his will. Like I wouldn't be able to pray to God and say, okay, can I let me win $1 million or let me get rich? It don't work that way. But now if I
A
pray,
million bucks, winning $1 million
yeah,
isn't within the will of God. That
no, it's
isn't.
not. It's
Why?
no,
Why
it's not
not?
because for one, um, if it was like that, it'd be a whole bunch of people rich. Like
Well, I mean, that's pretty
his will,
sad.
his
There are a bunch of people that are rich. That does that mean that
what,
they're
but
not worshiping your God? Does that mean that they all don't worship your God? Like, is he the God of poor people?
well, I won't say poor people, but I will say like the lowly. Um, when it comes to like the rich, that's this with the world population, they still like got like a real small percentage. Majority of the people that's living today, we not rich. You know,
Yeah, but
um,
and you really think that that's the will of your God? The crazy thing about it is that in the Old Testament, the Israelites, to them, God wanted them to be rich. God wanted them to be wealthy. God wanted them to be kings, leaders of nations. This Jesus wants y'all to be poor and lowly, like he's the God of lowly, like you just said. That's kind of
but
interesting to me
n-
how it switched from how how humans look at themselves from the Old Testament to the New, and what they expected from their God, like from the Old Testament, they expected their God to, you know, make them kings of nations, right? Give them wealth and land, even if they had to go in there and kill for it. But in the New Testament, you're not expected to be wealthy. That's interesting. But I want to ask you a question right quick, okay? So I'm going to read Ezekiel 4 to you since you have not heard of the Ezekiel bread, and I want you to think about what we just talked about, and then let me know if your thought process changes a little bit. Okay. All right. So, uh, thou also, son of man, take the attack. Okay. So remember that he had Jeremiah walk around for 3 years to prophesy, to be a sign what was going to happen to Egypt and to Ethiopia. Here he's telling Ezekiel to be a sign for what's going to happen to the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom of Israel. Okay. Thou also, son of man, take thee a towel and lay it before thee, and portray upon it the city, even Jerusalem, and lay siege against it, and build a fort against it, and cast a mount against it. Set the camp also against it, and set battering rams against it round about. So he's telling them to make this, brick clay pretend city of Jerusalem on it, kind of like a ritual thing, like draw the city of Jerusalem on this brick, right? And then put things against it to make it look like the city is being besieged, right? Lie thou also upon thy left side. Hold on. Moreover, take unto thee an iron pan, and set it for a wall of iron between thee and the city, and set thy face against it, and it shall be besieged. And thou shalt lay siege against it. This shall be a sign of the house of Israel. Right. You ever watch those movies where there's a person who obviously is suffering from, a mental illness that might be stalking somebody, and you see that they've made these shrines to people, and this is what they plan on doing to the person that they are stalking, like their plan. Have you ever seen those, those movies where the serial killer is like,
I'm familiar with you. I'm familiar with it, but I don't really get off into them though.
oh, okay. Okay, so basically he's telling Ezekiel to create this fake city, this play city or model, let me use that word, a model of a city of Jerusalem, and create a model of Jerusalem being overtaken. Okay. So kind of like imagine the little army men that we used to play with when we were kids, where everybody used to get the army men. So he's saying like put the army men up around it and put a pan up to create this iron fence between the city and the people that's coming in to besiege it. So Ezekiel's creating his own scene where he is. Then he says, "Lie thou upon thy left side, and lay the iniquity of the house of Israel upon it." According to the number of the days that thou shalt lie upon it, thou shalt bear the iniquity. For I have laid upon thee the years of their iniquity, according to the number of the days, 390 days. So shalt thou bear the iniquity of the house of Israel. So he says, once you finish creating this place city, this model city, I want you to lay on your left side and bear the sins of the north for 390 days to account for the 390 years that the north has sinned against God. So Ezekiel is taking on the sins of the north, right? He's becoming the sacrifice, kind of like Jesus took on the sins of the world. Ezekiel is doing this here. Um, and Ezekiel hears God tell him, I've put their iniquity on you. I'm making you bear their sin so that they will see what punishment I'm about to bring to them. And when thou hast accomplished them, when you've accomplished the 390 days, he says, lie again on your right side. And thou shalt bear the iniquity of the house of Judah for 40 days. I have appointed thee each day for a year. And so you have now, after he's finished the 390 days on his left side, he has to turn on his right side and stay there for 40 days to bear the sins of Judah. Therefore, thou shalt set thy face towards the siege of Jerusalem, and thine arm shall be uncovered, and thou shalt prophesy against it. So, for 40 days, he has to lay there naked, prophesying to this model city and telling Jerusalem that they're going to be overtaken. For 40 days, he's sitting here talking to this model city. Okay. And behold, I will lay bands upon thee. And God's like, I'm going to tie you up with rope so that you cannot turn from side to side. Like when you're on your left side for 390 days, I'm gonna tie you up with a rope and you got to stay there. And then when you turn to your right side for the 40 days, you're gonna be tied up with a rope so that you cannot turn from side to side till thou hast ended the days of the siege. Take thou also unto thee wheat and barley and beans and lentils and millet and fitches, and put them in one vessel, and make thee bread thereof according to the number of the days that thou shalt lie upon thy side. 390 days shalt thou eat thereof. And thy meat which thou shalt eat shall be by weight, 20 shekels a day. From time to time shalt thou eat. So he tells him what he can eat, and he wants him to put these things in one vessel. He's like, for 390 days, you can eat this. The meat, you can eat 20 shekels weight of meat from time to time. And some of the nerds did the math for me on that. That's 8 ounces of meat that he was allowed to have from time to time. So God basically wanted him to starve himself as he was doing this. Thou shalt drink water by measure, the sixth part of a hin. From time to time, thou shalt drink. So he not only did he want him to starve himself while he was doing this, he wanted him to thirst himself while he was doing this. To represent that that he was just gonna let Jerusalem starve and thirst away. Right. So this is Ezekiel bearing the sins and um, the prophesying this to this fake Jerusalem so that it happens to Jerusalem as he's prophesying. So he's sitting there talking to the brick. And the Lord said, even thus shall the children of Israel eat their defiled bread. I'm sorry, did I skip that? Yeah. And thou shalt eat it as barley cakes. Skip verse 12. And thou shalt eat it as barley cakes, and thou shalt bake it with dung that cometh out of a man in their sight. So he tells him, he's like, I want you to eat, I want you to the little water that you're gonna drink, you have to eat it with barley cakes that you bake it with human shit. God tells him to eat bread with human shit. That's baked with human shit. At that point, before I go any further, what do you say to God when you hear that?
Well, it definitely sounds disgusting. That's one thing for sure. Um, um, I don't. I mean, I would have to do my research on that. You know, and
What research? Are
and
you?
just
Is it that you think that I'm reading something that's not in the book?
Um,
Like you could go to your
Perhaps
Bible,
sometimes,
right?
I mean, sometimes I know, information can get twisted. It can be misleading,
But I'm reading
stuff like
direct.
that.
Hold on, I'm gonna in a minute. You're gonna see how that I'm not misleading you. But like I'm reading directly from the Bible, and it's Ezekiel chapter 4. If you have your Bible there, you can read along with me. I'm not misquoting or twisting anything. I'm reading word from word from the Bible. As a matter of fact, Ezekiel speaks up. Like I wanted to see what you would say, right? Like when if God tells you to do this, what do you say? Ezekiel speaks up, and Ezekiel's like, "Psh, I ain't never did that." Ezekiel says, hold on. And the Lord said, even thus shall the children of Israel eat their defiled bread among the Gentiles, whether I will drive them. So he's saying even the children of Israel would eat defiled bread, um, shit bread when I send them into the amongst the Assyrians. Then said I, Ezekiel says, then said I, our Lord God, behold, my soul has not been polluted. From my youth even to now, have I not eaten of that which dieth of itself, or is torn in pieces, neither came there abominable flesh into my mouth. Then he said to me, Ezekiel says, then God said to him, lo, I have given thee cow's dung for men's dung, and thou shalt prepare thy bread with that. So and so because Ezekiel was like, I'm not eating cow, I'm not eating human shit. God's like, okay, I'll let you do it with cow shit. So that right there tells you that like we're not twisting anything, right?
Hmm.
We're not twisting anything. It's not symbolic because or metaphorical. There's no reason for God to change it from cow feces to I mean to change it from human feces to cow feces if it's symbolic or metaphorical, right?
Hmm.
Um so he tells him that he can do it with cow dung instead of human dung. And then he says, moreover, he said unto me, Son of man, behold, I will break the staff of bread in Jerusalem, and they shall eat bread by weight and with care, and they shall drink water by measure and with astonishment, that they may want bread and water and be astonished one with another and consume away with their iniquity. So Ezekiel is basically saying this is the prophecy that he got from God to lay on his side, be tied up with a rope for 390 days, talking to a brick, and then another 40 days tied up with a rope, talking to a brick, barely eating, starving himself, barely drinking water. And then when he does eat, he's eating bread baked with cow shit. But at first, the first idea God gave him was human shit. Move, I can't see any of your comments. Like I see your profile picture, but it's blank. So if you're typing, I can't read it. Like there's nothing there. But I see your profile picture in the comments. Go ahead, Terrell.
I mean, I don't know what to say about that one. Like, I
I
really
guess the
don't.
question is like, would you are you in Ezekiel? Like, would you do what God asked here?
Absolutely, I would. I just, I don't see him having me to do anything like that, though. At least not at this point in time.
Like, and a lot of people say that. Like, there's only one Christian on stage at a time. Please stop commenting. Can I talk? Can I join? I promise you, I'm going to get to you. I see a lot of Christians say that, like, not this point in time, but they also say that God is never changing, right? So, like, what changed about the God that He would do it then, that He would not do it now?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, dealing with, I would say, like for example, when it comes to prophecies, things that that was going on back then, and getting his book together, the Bible. And once it got completed, once Jesus came through and fulfilled the law of the Bible and everything, the information, um, that book is pretty much all we need at that point. It's just about
I mean, I hear you saying the
un-
book is pretty much all you need. I'm still
mhm.
not hearing how the nature of the God changed. Um, Jesus fulfilling the law doesn't have anything to do with God's characteristics and personalities. He got angry back then. He gets angry now, right? Y'all talk. He talked to people back then. People said that he's talking to them now. I'm gonna tell you what I see. I see a man who most likely was suffering from psychosis, right? And people
Okay,
did back then. Nobody knew that. Like people didn't know that, right? And so they saw psychosis back then as supernatural. Um, I think in this day and time, we as more knowledgeable humans, more involved humans should be able to say should be able to decipher a little bit better whether we're talking to a supernatural entity or not. And we should be able to tell that supernatural that what we believe to be a supernatural entity or question it and be like, I don't know, I'm not doing that. I mean, have you ever seen God strike anybody down for saying no? Like in your lifetime, and be honest, have you ever
no,
seen God? Right. So, like, why would you be afraid to be like, I'm not doing that?
I mean, I didn't mention that I wouldn't. I mean, I know that
No,
whatever.
you said you would. I'm asking.
Oh,
You
okay,
said you would do anything that God asked. You said no questions
right,
asked. Right.
right.
That includes this, and you said that, right? You said it's disgusting, but if God asked, you
Hmm.
would have to do it, right? But my
Yeah,
question
I
is,
just
why
know.
couldn't you say no?
Why couldn't I say no? I mean, I
Yeah.
could say no. I could, but I
Why?
I
Why
I,
wouldn't
I
you?
wouldn't.
Why
Why
not?
wouldn't I?
Ezekiel
Because,
did.
but I mean, now he did, but I'm assuming I don't have this knowledge, but I'm assuming that our heavenly Father, he still work things out with him, to get his will done, to get his purpose done.
Of course he did. He switched it from human shit to cow shit. That's the
Okay,
working out. That's what he worked out with
okay,
Ezekiel. Like Ezekiel was like, could somebody block digital generation, please? That's exactly what the negotiation was, right? Like the negotiation was that God wanted it to be human shit because that's how mad or how angry God was at the North and the South for their sins. Thank you, Lala. And uh Ezekiel was like, I'm not eating human shit. And God said, okay, I'll let you do cow shit. So that was the negotiation to get God's will done.
okay. I mean, so he resorted to doing the cow manure.
Hmm.
I just know that it was a divine purpose of whatever that was done, and we have it with the scriptures, to show that whatever it was that took place, it was something that right now today is benefiting us.
What's benefiting us by Jerusalem being destroyed and taken to Babylon? Because you know what happened when that happened, right? When Jerusalem was destroyed and all of them were taken to Babylon, that eliminated the Davidic line. That actually made God look like he lied because he gave this one-sided covenant to David and told David that the line would last forever, that he would never take his presence from it like he did Saul, right? That the heirs to his kingdom would be successful and that he would be with them forever. And he said that no matter how much they sinned, he would never do that. He would never take the kingdom away. He said that he would whoop them with the rods of humans if they sinned against his law, but he would never take the kingdom away. And he actually did take the kingdom away. So like what I don't understand is how that Like, how is him having Ezekiel? What it looks like to me, if you want to say that this is some divine thing and not, a human having a mental break, what it looks like to me is that Ezekiel is doing some type of curse, a ritual, right? Why would God need Ezekiel to speak a ritual or a curse over Jerusalem so that they get sent into exile and that the Assyrians get sold throughout the Assyrians? All God had to do was do it. Why subject Ezekiel to that just to prophesy or to be a sign for that impending destruction?
Well, the way our Heavenly Father works, like when it comes to his his power and what he can do. I mean, he can do, of course, he can do all things, but he doesn't just do things in a way that would like sometimes come to our understanding, or at least some of us, maybe most of us. Like you know, people would resort to say that God works in mysterious ways. It's like, man, I mean, if you don't understand it, yeah, it's mysterious to you. But if you come to understand, you know why you do what you do, then you would have a like a legitimate understanding as to why he operate the way he do. Now, when I say this, I'm not saying like well, actually I would be. And that is for everything that he does, there is a legitimate reason for it. And one of the legitimate
Good night,
reasons
Copper.
for why he do what he would do, when he do it, and how he do it, it is to benefit us as mankind altogether.
Not always. Like sometimes he just does shit because he's pissed, right? Like it's anger. It's not always to benefit mankind. He even told them in Ezekiel 36 that what he was doing for him because they had messed up his name. He's like, I'm not doing this for y'all. This is for my benefit to get my name back. He's like, y'all have fucked up my name. Of course he didn't say fucked up, but y'all have messed up my name and I'm not doing this for y'all wretched. He's like, I don't even want your spirits in your own bodies. I'm taking out your spirit and I'm putting mine in. That's how pissed he was. Like, it's not always for the benefit of humankind. Like, I guess, like it sounds like to me, which is what we're noticing, is that the God that you have in your mind isn't necessarily the God in this book, because the God in this book would have people walk around butt ass naked for 3 years. He would tie people up naked for 390 days. Well, was that a total of 450 days? 450 days, have them eat shit and starve themselves. Like he would do that. And he would do it for his benefit because he's angry. It doesn't sound like it's the same God that you know.
I mean, actually, it's a God that I don't know that you're in referencing to, um,
Yeah, but it's the God in
especially
this Bible though.
well. And again, I mean, not taking any information away in regards to what you're saying. I just know that whatever it is that he set up and he did, it was for some benefit. It wasn't um, to do us wrong in any kind of way. It was definitely for us to benefit.
How does eating shit help? Like, do you think that God didn't know that excrement was unhealthy? Like he didn't even want it around him. Like he told them that if they did not go outside the camp and uh, shit properly and dig holes and cover it up, that he was going to leave them to their enemies. He's going to let their enemies come in and take them, because he said, I walk amongst you. Like, I don't want to step in it. I don't want to smell it. Have some decorum. Go outside the camp and bury that shit. So you think he doesn't know that him telling Ezekiel to eat human shit, that was a vile thing? and it was unhealthy.
See, that's where I would. I mean, now that you bring that up, that's where I would have to like research that myself. Just to get an accurate understanding of what you're saying, because again, a lot of times stuff can become misinterpreted or
I'm not
misunderstood.
interpreting anything. In interpretation is what you all look for. You all look and say, now why did God tell Ezekiel to eat human shit? What does this really mean? Right? What does the shit represent? It doesn't necessarily represent excrement. The shit represents the sins of the world. Like that's what y'all do. I'm not interpreting anything. You see what I'm saying? All I'm doing is reading. So I can't misinterpret when I'm not interpreting in the first place.
And I get it. I mean, however, if we were to come to the accurate interpretation or comprehension of what it's saying, then we would come to know that it's something besides what's being applied here, or what's being said basically, and that is what God. That's how God is. He had you to do things of such, and you know, um, it put a real bad light on God Himself. And I just know that according to everything that I know when it comes to the scriptures, like it don't match up. It has to be something there that I have not researched or ran up on, so that I could give a full clarification of what you're talking about.
And where do you plan on getting this clarification? Like when you read this text, when you read Ezekiel 4 and you read Isaiah 20, it's going to say exactly what I said today. Like, where do you get this clarification from? A commentary?
No, I mean, again, sometimes when you read this information, um, it's things that may be left out, or
See,
it just
again,
may be a
there you
misun.
are. Like, there you are accusing me of leaving things out. Like, I read
No, I'm
everything
not.
for you word for word, right? I
When
didn't leave anything out. I'm
when
not
I
trying to
okay
trick you.
when I say leave out, I'm not talking about like little words being left out of them. Like, I'm just simply saying what you read, it was misunderstood.
There is nothing to misunderstand. Like, I clearly understand when he says, thou shalt drink also water by measure, the sixth part of a hin. All I have to do is research what is a hin. How much does the sixth part of a hin equal to? Right. Then he says, from time to time, thou shalt drink. Like, I think you understand what time to time means, correct?
Yep.
What is time to time mean?
But every now and then.
Every now and then, which means, and he's telling him to drink a sixth of a hin every now and then. And then at the end of he says that they may want bread and water and be astonished one with another and consume away for their iniquity. Right. So he's saying that this is the punishment of Jerusalem and Israel. Like, they're going to want to drink water, but they only going to get it from time to time. They're going to want to eat bread, but the only bread that they're going to get is shitty bread. Like, they're going to eat defiled bread. So because he's saying that this is the punishment, he's telling Ezekiel what he wants him to do in order to prophesy this punishment towards this model Jerusalem, and this siege of Israel that he told him to create. Like, I mean, it's not. I'm not misunderstanding anything. Like,
Okay.
I'm just reading words, right? Um, and thou, verse 12 of chapter 4 in Ezekiel, thou shalt say, thou shalt eat it as barley cakes, and thou shalt bake it with dung that cometh out of man. What is there to misunderstand? Like, what do you hear when you say that?
I mean, I
And let
get
me
it.
finish
I
it. It
mean,
says in their sight. He's telling him that that he has to bake this bread with human shit in front of the Israelites. So what do you hear when I read that?
I, I, I would, I would have to just read, of course, the full chapter, the full book, but then also just do some researching on what you're talking about here, because it is it is mind blowing. You know what I'm saying? But of course, it won't throw me off from who I know who our true creator truly is. Because
I mean,
actually, when it
you've already
comes
made the
to
statement that the God that I'm talking about doesn't sound like the Most High. You already made that statement. You realize that, right?
I made what statement?
That the God that I'm talking about doesn't sound like your God. You realize you said that, right?
Um, well, if I said that, I wouldn't. I may have said that. I wouldn't even contest it. According to what you're talking about, what I'm saying is that I know for a fact. Well, I take that back because I don't know for a fact. What I will say is that um, with research and just going over um, the information about Isaiah and, like, for example, what you're speaking of, it had to have been some kind of legitimate reason why something like that took place.
I mean, he tells him it's for the 390 years that Israel sinned, and then the 40 years that Judah has sinned against the law, against God.
Okay.
Y'all, please, Gracie is allowed to use caps. Gracie, Miko, and there's one more person that reached out, but the mods know who have been given permission to use caps. So let's let the mods with when it comes to the caps thing, unless there's not a mod in here. I do appreciate y'all helping, but there are a few people with vision impairment that have been green lighted and given permission to use caps. Go ahead, Terrell.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it sounds shocking and all of that. You know what I'm saying? But it still wouldn't be enough to for me to look at our true creator, in a bad way or a bad light. None other than just what I know, and that's according to a lot of it has to do with when Jesus came through and fulfilled the law in regards of what the scriptures is talking about, and that's in regards of us, with the situation about sovereignty, who has the right to rule, and then secondly, like, if we gonna live or die, you know, that's pretty much what it's kind of boiling down to.
I mean, well, I guess the last question that I would ask, and I think everyone in this room is waiting for me to ask you, is: would you do
Okay,
what Abraham? If God asked you to do what Abraham did, would you do that?
are you talking about with his son Isaac?
Yeah.
I can't I ain't read your last question. Is that what you was
N-
referring to?
No, that it's not on the board. I'm
Okay.
asking. It's pertaining
Oh,
to
okay.
what would it take for you to tell God no. Um, if God asked you to offer up your child um,
Hmm.
as a sacrifice for some covenant of some promise that he's going to make with you, and he wants to make sure that after he gives you this promise, that he will still have your ear, that you will still be loyal to him, and he wants your firstborn. In exchange for that, would you do that?
I would. I mean, again, as we know, the example of Abraham, he went through the course, but did he actually sacrifice his son? No.
He
And I mean,
actually did.
there's
The King James Bible changed it. In the Jewish tradition, he did sacrifice his child. Yahweh went to Sarah first and asked Sarah to sacrifice Isaac, and Sarah said no. She went to bed, woke up the next morning. Abraham and Isaac were gone, and she immediately knew what Abraham was about to do. So she fell to her knees and prayed to the God of the universe, and uh, said that a man that would sacrifice his son, to a God has neither a God or a son. She asked God to forgive Abraham, and she asked the God of the universe to protect Isaac. Um, Abraham actually slit Isaac's throat. His body left. Two angels instead of one guided Isaac's soul back to his body, and he was resurrected. And Isaac talks about how he felt the quickening of the death. King James changed all that. So he actually did go through with the sacrifice. Um, and are you under the impression that this God does not accept sacrifices?
no, because I mean, they did the animal sacrifices,
I
so
mean, human sacrifices.
no. I mean,
He does.
just I mean, so is my question would be is that supposedly the only sacrifice that he supposedly did,
No, like
or
so.
that was made for him,
No.
human sacrifice?
Mm-mm. So there were uh harem sacrifices, which were um humans that were taken captive in the spoils of war, that were dedicated to God as a tribute or an offering. They were to be put to death. But they could not be ransomed. They could not be redeemed. They had to be put to death. So we see that happening in Numbers 31 when God tells Moses to send the Israelites into the land of the Midianites, um, to slaughter all of the women who are not virgins, the little boys and all of the men, but to keep the little girl or young women virgins for themselves. And then they were to split up the spoils of the war, including all of the humans that were taken captive in the war. And the only humans that were taken captive in the war were the virgins, and they it was 32,000 virgins, which were taken captive in the war. Uh, and God, the priest got 16,000 in their split, and they gave 32 of those to God as a tribute. And since they were captives of destruction, um, they had to be put to death according to the Levitical law and Deuteronomies 27, 28, and 29. So we can give me just a second here. He also did tell them that their firstborns belong to him because he brought them out of Egypt. And he said, "You shall do with your firstborns uh, the same that you do with the first of your sheep and your oxen. For the first 8 days, they can stay with you, and then on the eighth day, you are to give them to me because they are mine." Now, in the King James Bible, there is a way for the Israelites to redeem their firstborns. There is a valuation put on each child. And if you were wealthy enough, you could redeem or ransom your firstborn child back from God. King James doesn't necessarily talk about what would happen if you were too poor and you couldn't pay the price to get your child back. But if you were, I know that if you could not get your animal back, then the neck was broken if you could not afford to pay to ransom the animal back after the time period that God was to keep the animal or the child. Um, in antiquity, they did sacrifice their children to Yahweh. There were urns found with inscriptions to Yahweh, um, where they did pass their children into fire to Yahweh. Exodus 20 and 25, Yahweh talks about that, how he caused them to do that on purpose because he was mad at them. But he has accepted human sacrifice. The daughter of Japheth, he accepted as a human sacrifice. So it's not uncommon or unlike the God. It's not weird for the God to ask Abraham to sacrifice Isaac. It's just that
Okay.
King James version was like, they rewrote it to say that he stopped, that the angel stopped, not necessarily God, but the angel of the Lord stopped Abraham in the nick of time, and then that was a ram in the bush.
Okay.
So, but even if like without Abraham didn't know that there was going to be a ram in the bush. Um, one of our community members is a biblical scholar, and he pointed out to us 2 nights ago that remnants of the original story is still in there, where it says that Abraham came down the mountain alone, like Isaac didn't come down the mountain with him. So, like, Abraham didn't know that God was gonna have a ram in the bush, right? He just said yes, right? He just when they're going up and Isaac's like, "Where's the sacrifice?" And Abraham's like, "Oh, God's gonna provide one." But the whole time Abraham knows that his son is the sacrifice. He's just not telling his son. So Isaac, I guess, don't run away. Um, but he still said yes, and I think that's where we ask: Was Abraham suffering from a mental illness, being willing to sacrifice his son to God? Because Jeremiah later on says God never asked anybody to sacrifice any child to him. So he's like, what the hell is going on in y'all's minds? Who y'all listening to?
Are you want me to respond?
Yeah.
Which okay. Well, I mean that is a lot of information. Um, according to the things that you mentioned about the other sacrifices, like with um, the men and the women and the children, but the young virgins and all of that, like um, back then when they did those things were justified primarily because they were not only just taking the land, but these people wasn't worshiping Yahweh, which is Jehovah in
So
English.
not worshiping Yahweh required you
Right,
as a child, okay, a child who was a virgin to be sacrificed to Yahweh because their parents didn't worship Yahweh. Not worshiping Yahweh requires your life to be sacrificed. Like the crazy thing
right,
about this religion is that one is predicated on the whole basis of the religion is predicated on the fact that a human was sacrificed for your sins. And it makes sense that you would be saying right now that 32 kids who were sacrificed because their parents didn't worship Yahweh, like their lives were sacrificed like Jesus for the sins of their parents. It makes sense that you would see that as justifiable since you see it as a good thing that another human was killed for something that you would do in the future. Like to I mean that's how the religion is established, right? So it makes it difficult to see the evil in that or the wrong in that. Um, and just human sacrifice alone. And I can't let me not even just say the wrong because I know that a lot of Christians and philosophical Christians like to argue, well, who says that eating shit is a bad thing, or who says that killing 32 little girls is a bad thing. Like I'm not interested in debating whether or not murder or sacrificing to an imaginary deity is wrong. To me, it's wrong and it's evil, right? And I wouldn't serve anything that required that, regardless if they, were Israelites or not. That the Nowhere in this book do you see this God giving any of the Canaanites and or the Midianites an opportunity to repent or worship it. They had their own gods on top of that, right? Um, but nowhere in this book do you see this God giving them an opportunity. And then the reason, the reason these women got killed, uh, is because the Israelites slept with them. God blamed Balaam for it and said Balaam um, caused it, and the Israelites got an STD and they started dying off. Like, these little girls didn't deserve to die because grown ass people were fucking and got an STD. That's I don't know how y'all see that as just.
Well, when you mention y'all and you mention like I noticed you had mentioned y'all religion, you know, in essence to group us all as one.
Well, you
Um,
did say the word just, and when I say y'all, I'm talking about to the people that I've talked to.
well, I mean, I was really trying to bring out a distinction when it comes to religion and when it comes to like the teachings, the practices, you know, things of that nature, um, where there there are distinctions amongst us. So like we all don't represent the same thing or the same teachings, the same
No, I agree that
interpretation of it.
there have been a few who have come up here and said that they would tell God no, regarding eating shit bread, regarding unaliving their children. But there are a lot of you who share the same sentiment that you would unalive your child if you believe God was asking you to, that you would eat shit bread if you believe that God was asking you to, and that you don't think that you can or should question whether or not these thoughts are coming from the God, right? um it, there's almost all of you say, oh, when we talk about the God requiring human sacrifice, um having believed before that this God was a virgin to human sacrifice, and then after finding out that he was not, just says, oh, it's just, without even understanding, without even knowing why he required it, your response is automatically that it's just, and you don't even know how to explain why it's just that. We have seen that.
I was going to ask you. You mentioned about other sacrifices being made. Like, could you where are these scriptures at that you talking about in
Yeah, I
regards
gave them
of
to
other
you.
sacrifices?
Yep, I gave them to you. Numbers 31, Leviticus 27, 28, and 29, Exodus 20, 25. Let me see where J-Path's story is. Give me just a second.
Because according
Judges 11, 29 through 40 is the story of J-Path offering up his daughter. Um, the story of Jericho. The Jericho's conquest was a entire Hedem offering. He tells them that it's a Hedem offering, that they can't touch anything inside because the that first conquest belongs to him. Every human inside, everything inside, he told them to kill every man, boy, woman, and child, and not to touch anything inside because that is an offering to him. There was one person who did keep something inside, and he even got killed for doing so because Jericho was set apart as an offering to this God, right? Um, like, there are several times in here where God offers a sacrifice. Unfortunately, Selamar has paid to drop you. I was enjoying the conversation, but I think you saying that it's just for 32 kids to be sacrificed to this god was too much for the audience. So I do have to drop you, Terrell. I hope those. Did you write those scriptures down? I was trying to give him the scriptures, y'all, so he can read and study, so he could see that the God did offer human sacrifices.
He can hear you.
But I did enjoy the conversation. Uh, Hopefully, you learn and you see that the God that is in your head that you are thinking about is either you need to learn more about that God or they're not the same God, friend. Elijah Mahdi, hi, how are you?
Hey, how you doing? Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm actually trying to put my phone on Bluetooth.
Okay.
If you could just give me 1 second so I can hear you better.
Sure. Ria, you want to do this one? Ria, you there? Did she walk away?
Ria.
It's okay. I'll go ahead and do it and then let her get the next one.
Hey, y'all, let's get these likes up. Let's get to 100K. Continue to share the live and remember to help Thinker with her gift goal of finger hearts.
I wish the rain would go away. This is how I know. Today I was thinking to myself, I'm like, oh my God, I'm finna be 44. And I was like, what the hell happened to 43? I don't even remember it. Oh my God. And I'm sitting there like it's raining outside and my
Mhm.
shoulder, the rotator cuff, like, oh
Oh,
my God, it
why?
is tearing my ass up right now. Huh?
You have any plans for this weekend?
My well, of course, I was spending with my kids,
Yeah.
but they want to take me out, so and they want to take me on a shopping spree. So I
Ooh.
told them I was like, I don't know about a
Fine.
shopping spree. Hi Elijah. Are you a Christian?
I'm a supporter. I'm a supporter of the Christians and the Jews.
A supporter of the Christian Benadryl?
No, I said I'm a supporter of the Christians and Jews.
What does that mean? You support them?
I support them. I support the scriptures. I support the Christians and their
Are you a
faith and their
follower
beliefs.
of them? Are you a follower of them?
I'm a follower of the scriptures and look in to see who are being dishonest and who are being truthful to the scriptures. This is why I say I'm a supporter of the Christians
So
and the Jews
you
because
are a judger. You sit back and you observe and you judge people. God sent
yes,
you here
ma'am.
to judge.
If you want to say that, yes, you
So
can say
okay,
that.
you're high on a pedestal there. Are you in Hebrew Israelite?
No, I'm not a Hebrew Israelite.
Okay. Please pick a topic. The way this works is that there are three hosts on stage with you right now, myself, Ria, and Lala. We will interrupt you for only three reasons, okay? One, if you are uh, informing people. Um, Second, if you are monologuing. Three, if you say something interesting and we want to like hone in on a thing that you said, because it may expand the conversation, so we may interrupt. Those are the only three reasons that we will do so. We ask that you do not interrupt us when we are talking. Please pick a topic and begin a discussion.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What if you all are giving out misinformation?
We do not. Everything that we say, we can back up with resources.
Okay. Then I will from the first topic, you're giving out misinformation, and that is, did the flood remove? Hold on. What are we saying? If, did the flood remove the first curse?
I don't think I gave out information. I think we had a opinionated discussion. So, what
Right.
misinformation did I give out? Opinions is not giving out misinformation. Understand the
So
difference. Understand the difference between that. And what misinformation did I give out?
I,
But just to know, my intention is not to argue with you all because I don't argue with
It's okay, but
argue.
you've already accused me. So what misinformation did I
No,
give out?
I just want to say if you don't
Yeah,
mind.
I
I don't
don't. That's fine. What misinformation did I give out, sir?
because you are uh, relaying a message that the Most High flooded the whole
What
world.
literally it says in the text that he flooded the entire world.
I'm sorry, dear ma'am. So you just gave out misinformation because it does not say that he flooded the world. The Hebrew, the original language, is that he flooded the land, and it was a historical event that took place in Mesopotamia, where
The
the
King
land.
James says that he flooded the earth. I'm not about to argue this with you. Are you
No,
a Hebrew Israelite? And do not lie. Do you think that you are an Israelite?
no, ma'am. I just told you that I'm not
Are you
a.
a descendant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob?
No, I'm an African. I don't. That's not my story. That's a
Uh,
6,000 year
Okay.
old story.
All right.
I
Well,
just
somebody paid $10 to drop you. I'm not about to argue semantics with you. You
I
know
think
the
I
Bible
think
says
the
that God flooded the whole earth. I'm not about to do that. The hell?
I'm blocked.
Thank you.
Are
Ria,
you
are you
guys
there?
familiar with the Hamites?
1 second, please. Please unmute. Ria, are you back? Where did she go? Did she fall asleep?
Probably.
Goodness. Vahal, are you a Christian?
I am not a Christian, no.
Are you a believer of the God of the Bible?
I believe that there is a Yahweh, yes.
Do you follow the God of the Bible?
Not in modern terms, but yes, I do.
I don't know what that means in modern terms.
Because modern terms is a follower of the Bible is either a Jew or a Christian, but I am neither.
So you're just a believer. You just don't identify.
No, have you heard of Sumerian tablets? Because that tells you more
Okay,
about
so
the
we're
story.
not talking about Sumerian tablets. That is on Fridays. Please come back on
So
Fridays when
you're
we do
saying that you don't
free
want to know the
form.
truth. Is that what
I
you're
already
saying?
know the truth. We're
No,
not
you
talking about that. Shut up. My God. Goodness
What the hell is
gracious.
going on?
I
Why
don't
can't
know.
they ever
They
answer a straight like?
I
Are you like? Oh my gosh!
I was trying to invite him to Freeform Friday if he wants to talk about the Sumerian tablets, if you want to talk about the other creation stories, if you want to talk about the other myths, you can come back on Friday. Okay. You are not the only person who have read other stuff. This conversation is for Christians and believers of the Christian Bible. That is why I asked that question in the beginning. Goodness gracious alive. And then the first thing he was like, "Have y'all heard of the Hamites?" Get off my stage. Dude that said, "We don't want to hear him on Friday either." Goodness gracious.
Right?
Ria, I am really trying to give you one. I wish I wish your ass would come back to the stage. T, hi, how are you? Are you asleep? Hello, T.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is knocked out. Okay. All right. The queue is clear. If you are a Christian and you would like to start a discussion for one of the topics that is on stage, please hit the guest request box. That was wild. She was knocked out. Yeah, that was some good sleep right there.
Mm-hmm. I've done that so many times.
I think they need to learn the difference between they really need to learn words. They really need to learn words. They need to learn the difference between misinformation, um, translations, uh, context, and interpretation. Like they really do.
Yeah. And we all know words don't mean words with them. So that's going to be a problem,
Yeah,
a big
unfortunately.
problem.
But did you catch what he said that he was sent here to be the judge? Like you have literally got to think really high of yourself.
Like, who are you, Mr. Man? Like, are you serious?
You are
So
not a
God
Christian,
sent
Cook
you
Wayne.
here.
Huh?
I said, so God sent you here to be the judge of all. Like,
That's weird. That dude is back. Y'all give me just a second to all of the friendlies that are in the guest box. I can't bring you up on stage until we get a Christian on stage. Okay. Remember, it's Christians on stage during the week and only one nerd at a time. Give me just a second. I have all friendlies in the guest box, so I have to bring a Christian on stage first. Bahal, can somebody please block his ass because he keeps requesting, and I've told you
okay,
wait till Friday.
he's gone.
Thank you. Like goodness gracious. Every time I take
Why?
him out of the box, he goes right back in it. Like
Yeah,
that's
that is,
crazy.
it is.
Yeah,
Why do
y'all.
they want to be on stage so bad?
I think he thinks that he is the only person who's read the Sumerian tablets, and then on top of that, the Sumerian tablets ain't even the oldest story. Like
Mm-mm.
the way he's trying to like push it is freaking ridiculous. And then sometimes I think that they just assume that we don't know shit, which unfortunately sometimes Christians don't. But like, don't just assume. Ask first. Dex, welcome to the Nerds. Thank you so much for subscribing. Please get with a mod in the comments so that you can get a link to the Discord. If you are a Christian and you would like to start a discussion with one of the topics on the board, let me read the topics off and let me tell y'all why I picked these. So the flood. I'm serious about this question because I want to know when he says in Genesis 8 and 21 that he will not flood, curse the ground again. Let me read this. So in Genesis 8 and 21, he says, and when the Lord smelled the pleasing odor after Noah offered up the sacrifice after he got off the ship, the ark, he says, and when the Lord smelled the pleasing odor, the Lord said in his heart, I will never again curse the ground because of humans. Um, so my question is for him, why would he need to make that promise? You know, if 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 the curse didn't go away when he flooded the
Mm-hmm.
earth, right? So he also curses the ground again when he punishes Cain, when he banishes Cain out of Eden.
I don't know. Maybe he doesn't remember.
She said he doesn't. He said maybe he don't remember.
I
Yeah.
mean, he continues to do things that he says he's not gonna do. Like, I don't. Mm-hmm.
China Cole, the curse was on the earth. That was the curse that he gave Adam. That was Adam's curse, remember? He cursed the ground in Genesis